Okay, here I want to talk about this mode, in place to path. So this is when you have a cycle that is flying and cycling in place, and you want to attach it to a path. First, you create your curve. So you go to CV, and then you can start drawing out a curve that you like. So in this case, I've already drawn out a curve. Here you go, I've drawn out a curve, and you basically adjust it so that it aligns with your dragon, like that. Okay, so now I have it right here, dragon. I call it a dragon path. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about the loading configuration for your creature. So if your creature, this is good for if you have a snake or a bird or anything that doesn't really require your hand to stick. So a fish, a snake, in this case a dragon. So I can treat this as so if you're a snake, you have no arms sticking out like that. If it's all FK, in this case, if you can quickly check by grabbing your global, and you can see whether the legs are FK or IK. In this case, it's pretty FK. It's kind of a IK, local IK to the arm. So this case, this is more like a snake. I could treat this like a snake. So in this case, you would go to, if it's a snake-like creature or a fish with no dangling arms, you could load them in however you like. So you could, in this case, you can put the head in and then decide which one you want to go. You can go down the chain, the chest, the center of gravity, the hip, I can choose whatever you want, as long as it goes down the chain for your snake or your fish or whatever. You can just load them whatever you like in there as an IK. Make sure they're all run in IK, and then you would load your this all selection set of the entire creature, including a root if you want to. Again, if you can load the root here if you want to as well. Okay, so in the case that your creature have arms or things are dangling out there that is IK in world space that you want to carry with it. So I'm gonna reload. So you will, in this case, let's just try to do this one. Okay, we're gonna load as quadruped. So in this case, it's quadruped. If it only has two dangly things, you could still load it with biped. I'm gonna explain how this works. So you would load it like a quadruped. So you would load the chest. You can watch my loading tutorial in my full guide. Will explain what this means. So once I load this two, everything else at the front you load in here. So it's basically the same. You will load the front arms in here in the world space that you want to go with it. The hind legs, this is in the case these are loaded in, and then I loaded the hip here. So you want to make sure your center of gravity goes with it. Let's say I want this controller, I want the entire chain of tails to be attached to the path so that it bends with the path. So I select them all, load them in. So in the case like this, you want the arms to be kind of FK to the body. Let's say these are in world space, right? So you sometimes don't need to track these two things because they are gonna follow the body anyway. So what you can do is go select the arms and turn the sticky limb off. When you turn it off, it basically it bakes it out like an FK. It simply bakes this two into the space of whatever you put in the primary control. So in this case is the chest. So the same thing with the hind legs, which is these two. I'm gonna turn it sticky off. That means it's baking into whatever you put in here, which is the hip. So make sure you select in place to path. I always forget this, so remember that, and you'll be loading your path that the curve that you created over here. So you do not need to rebuild the path for this to work. Just simply load this in, and watch as I load it in. The tool is gonna duplicate this out. So I'm gonna click it. You see, it has loaded the path, but your path is here. It's just hidden, and then it's duplicated out one over here, just so that later on, if you were to delete this, you still have this. Now you make sure your timeline is extended to however long your cycle is going to go for. In this case, I'm 700 frames. And then now with your path loaded, you click trace. And what this is going to do is it's going to bake out your cycle onto the locators for this many frames. Okay, so after clicking trace for in place to path will take you directly to completion. So it'll build this for you. So you can see that my path now has controllers and my creature is actually attached to the path. So you can see that they will be a gear controller on top, and that's where you have your U value that you can animate. So let me just drag it around. Let me zoom out a little bit. You can see that you can glide it. You can glide the whole chain of controllers. So let me just quickly animate it forward just to see, just to show you how this looks like. So here you go. Let's let him fly a little bit faster. So you can see that in my cycle, okay, he's flying very slowly, but you can see that, let's fly a bit faster, that he is flying on the path, like that. And then you can see that so you can animate with the FK controller, or you can, if you really just don't want to work with FK, you can turn off the visibility, and these guys would be your IK controller. Let's make it bigger, and you can see that you can stretch it out, and the dragon will stick nicely. You can see that. You can stretch it however you like. It'll stick in place. What it will change is the end. So if I stretch this a lot, you can see that it actually drags the dragon back because it's trying to maintain its position on the path. So that if you were to drag here, you see that the drag, no matter how long you drag, the dragon remains in its spot. Then you can see that because we loaded our loading configuration, we have non-sticky over here. You can see that the legs do get controllers, but it's in an FK situation with the body. So you rotating the body rotates the hand, so it hard bakes into whatever you load here, which is the chest. And then you can see here's the hip. Yeah, that's the hip. You can see that the hind legs are inside the hip setup. So that's how you would do dangling arms if you have IK arms. Whereas if you can also have them as non-sticky. You can have sticky on. In that case, they'll get their own little arrow and they'll be in its own space. But in this case, it's not much of a reason to do that. So that's basically it. Just quickly, normal stuff. You can speed up your U value. You can speed up. You can slow down, and go backwards or whatnot. And the utilities applies too. So just quickly create time warp. Select your time warp. Put some controllers. That's pressing I and middle mouse. And there you go. I am time warping it around. So and pretty much all the other utilities apply. So yep, it's in my utility video. We'll explain all the utilities. So there you go.